Why did you my baby?
You had no right to take her from me!
You kidnapped her, and then you threw her away into the lake like nothing.
24-year-old Maxwell Brack received a prison sentence of 70 to 100 years for committing second-degree murder. Globe's disappearance was reported by her relatives, and police shared chilling surveillance footage from an ATM located at 7 Mile and Telegraph Roads. The video showed a suspect in a Halloween mask. The breakthrough in the investigation came from the use of Globe's ATM card, which pointed the investigators toward their suspect. Globe's body was discovered inside a trash container located on the 18,500 block of Fielding Street after a neighbor reported finding it in a garbage can. Her vehicle was located abandoned a day prior to the discovery of her body. Police stated that evidence retrieved from the car suggested a crime had taken place. The medical examiner officially determined Globe's loss to be a homicide. Authorities were unable to conclude the cause of Globe's demise. In response, people marched in the streets calling for justice for Globe. Brack, who had been Globe's ex-boyfriend, was apprehended and charged with murder the following day. According to Globe's mother, Brack had a history of being abusive, and she affirmed that the police had apprehended the correct individual. A jury found Brack guilty, leading to the prosecutors pushing for the maximum sentencing guidelines. He discarded her on the curb, as if it were just another day for garbage, stated the prosecutor following his conviction. Despite proclaiming his innocence at the sentencing, Brack had a record of 5 misdemeanors and 2 felonies prior to this case. He attributed his violent behavior to his upbringing. Judge Cynthia Gray Hathaway expressed that the standard sentencing guidelines were inadequate and imposed a 70 to 100-year prison sentence on Brack, adding that the final 10 years were specifically for the disrespect he exhibited upon conviction. Traven Baskerville was convicted for taking the life of Douglas Calhoun and for trafficking a minor. He was sentenced to 112 years in prison. His crimes included second-degree murder, human trafficking, child exploitation, and weapon violations. He will serve at least 120 years in prison.
None of this will bring my brother back, but he needs to sit and think.
Baskerville took the life of Calhoun in 2017 during an argument at his home. He was also involved in trafficking a 16-year-old girl who had arranged to meet Calhoun at Baskerville's home on the day of the tragedy. After taking the life of Calhoun, Baskerville moved his body to an empty house. Calhoun's body was found on July 7th in an empty house on Grail Avenue. The girl led the police to the body, and it was confirmed that he died from wounds inflicted by a weapon.
I've been forced to live with the awful.
Baskerville's ex-girlfriend, 17, testified that he often set up intimate meetings for her. Calhoun visited Baskerville's home for such a meeting, which was advertised on Backpage since 2016.
So he can own another person and force her to sell herself and thrown away like a piece of trash.
Baskerville took Calhoun's life during an argument. They moved the body to a vacant house's backyard and dumped it in a trash bin.
We believe that Ms. Baker is not necessarily a victim in this case. She's also what we believe to be one of the shooters.
A phone recording was played in court where Baskerville, from jail, told the girl to keep quiet and said he'd take the blame. In October 2016, 33-year-old Christopher Dean from Lithia Springs was tricked into visiting the Atlanta residence of Xavier and Orlando Gibson, thinking he was there to exchange some illicit substances with another individual, Christopher Lockett, all of whom were associated with the gangster disciples. The meeting turned into a horrifying ordeal of torture for over an hour, ending in Dean's demise, following the discovery that Dean had previously been a police informant in California. The fatal incident, carried out with a 2x4 and a crowbar, followed by the use of weapon, served as a grim message against informant activities within the gang.
Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, is the defense ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good.
The 1st of 2019 on indictment number 17 SC 149 of this hearing. On count 1 of the indictment, participation in criminal street gang activity, the sentencing range minimum is 10 and the maximum is 20 or life. The count 8 aggravated
Was found by the jury to be not guilty of that count.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
I have a record.
All the evidence, whatever is going to be submitted, victim impact or otherwise, from both the state as
Since this conviction and while the trial is pending, I've had an opportunity to review those previous convictions for sentencing as it pertains to Mr. Lockett only. On count 1, criminal street.
Lockett arranged for Jasper Green and Lamar Allman to dispose of Dean's body and car, but due to the condition of Dean's body, they left it in his car at a subway station parking lot, which led to their apprehension. The discovery of Dean's body led to the arrest of 7 suspects.
We all have empty space in our hearts for Chris. Aaron, his youngest son, he was one when Chris passed.
Got to see the comings and goings and essentially headquarters happening at Mr. Christopher Lockett's will merge. Aggravated assault will merge into count 2, malice. Count 9, aggravated.
Will be 10 years. Are there any questions about the courts? Relate to how you must feel, except as a parent, I know that it has to make better choices, even that your own son made. But quite frankly, or why, I guess, was the question. And it's better than what took place. But we have a system. They kept an open mind until it was time for them to deliberate. They deliberated over 20 years to be served concurrently. We have count 7. We want to discuss your options at this point with your attorney, Mr. Hudson.
In April 2019, Lockett received a life sentence without parole, Clark 2 life sentences, and Green, Rooks, and Xavier Gibson were also sentenced to life. Jorge Solace, a 20-year-old from Ellenwood, Georgia, received a 50-year prison sentence for causing a deadly drunk driving crash on Interstate 75 that resulted in the loss of 3 individuals and left 2 others with serious injuries.
But the pain is still the same as the day that it happened. When anybody dies because of somebody else's actions, there's no justice that will ever be served.
At the time of the incident, Solace was on probation for a prior DUI offense. His Ford F-350 was driving against traffic on Interstate 75 southbound, leading to a head-on collision with a vehicle traveling from Illinois to Florida early on Father's Day.
I don't expect this process to be easy for anybody in my family to get over. First, I didn't believe it whenever I was told that they had my mother crying beyond the door, and I knew it was all too real.
Every day that I wake up, it still feels the same without them here, you know.
I wanted to believe it was a terrible joke, but I can hear from behind my stepfather. It'll just get easier as time passes, but for now...
The crash claimed the lives of Hal Young, 7, C. Osborne, 8, and Michael Furo, 49, while 3-year-old Clayton Flood was paralyzed, and Michael Osborne, 49, sustained severe injuries. Solace, who was found with a blood alcohol content of 0.125, was uninjured.
We just got to get through it as best as we can and try to hold each other up.
I cannot tell you today that I am a Christian.
From my heart.
According to Atlanta Fulton County District Attorney Paul L. Howard, Solace was found unconscious by the police at the scene, and witnesses reported smelling alcohol on him and observed him attempting to deceive police by exiting the passenger side to suggest he hadn't been driving.
If I would have known that was the last time I would have ever said I love you to them.
There's not a day that I don't think about myself.
I never got to give his birthday presents or nothing. We passed week and a half for a birthday.
I would have said it 1,000,000 times over.
Without flinching in disgust at what God has done to me.
Solace admitted guilt to multiple charges, including vehicular homicide, underage DUI, and other related offenses. On December 29, 2016, in Detroit's East Side, 25-year-old Kendra Gardner was found deceased with a wound inflicted by a weapon to her head, with reports indicating her 65-year-old uncle as the shooter. Following the incident, another individual in the house managed to neutralize the uncle, leading to his arrest. Identified as Harmon, he faced charges of second-degree murder and illegal weapon possession. The incident unfolded during a gathering at the home, where a disagreement escalated, resulting in Harmon and Gardner moving to a separate room where the fatal incident occurred.
I would like to say to the family that sorry that your daughter's dead. They can say she was so good.
The court learned that excessive alcohol consumption was a significant factor that night. The judge expressed concern over Harmon's derogatory remarks about Gardner, suggesting an attempt to rationalize the act.
I don't accept that about her. She did not deserve it. You have destroyed two families. You destroyed her family. You destroyed your family.
It was further revealed that Harmon was intoxicated and uncooperative when Gardner attempted to assist him. Following the trial, Harmon was convicted on both charges and received a sentence ranging from 12 to 30 years in prison. Strict Javar Floyd, a former pastor, faced serious charges including sexual assault, child abuse, and human trafficking.
In the County of Kalamazoo, State of Michigan, between the months of January 2018 and June 1st of 2018.
Yes.
And at or about that time, that is during that time within the county, did you knowingly offer to sell transportation services to TH and or TJ that facilitated travel for the purpose of engaging in what would be a violation of the laws governing prostitution?
Yes.
Throughout his trial, Strickland maintained his innocence, claiming a conspiracy against him by various groups and individuals, including political and church members. Despite these claims, he accepted a plea deal for a lesser charge related to facilitating prostitution.
Most of this propaganda has been launched by my relationship as the president of the NAACP here in Kalamazoo. This was a witch hunt and a lynching from the beginning.
This decision led to a mix of reactions, with Strickland himself criticizing the fairness of his one-year jail sentence, which did not include sex offender registration or probation. He argued that the deal did not serve justice for the victims.
Though the prosecutor and his office have got a substantial deal in me being able to take this plea, because I do not feel that they would have prevailed at trial, and I do not believe that the facts were on their side.
Strickland also accused the prosecution of not genuinely supporting the victims, a claim countered by Assistant Prosecutor Kristen Mertens Carlin, who stated the plea was chosen to spare the victims from further distress in court. Ultimately, Judge Paul Breitenstein sentenced Strickland to 12 months in jail, adhering to the plea agreement and excluding additional requirements like sex offender registration or probation. David Adam Pate, a resident of Lancaster, North Carolina, and an individual with connections to white supremacist beliefs, was sentenced to life in prison for the fatal stabbing of 33-year-old Ricky James in November 2013. Pate, who had outward appearances and tattoos associated with hate groups, deceived his friend James into accompanying him into the woods, where he then stabbed him 39 times. The discovery of James's body was made by children who were in the area searching for their lost dog.
You're charged with murder. You understand what you're charged with?
Yes, sir.
And you understand that
my brother was, as the solicitor gave me the reviews of what was going on in the case, why would somebody want to talk to me looking like this? Well, my brother was the type of person who that drunk, and when he started to drink, he started to trust people too much. I just hope he knows he's gonna suffer back there. You let the devils, man. You devil, man.
Pate, who was already detained for a minor offense, became a prime suspect. The delay in charging him was due to awaiting autopsy results. Investigations revealed Pate's fascination with knives and masks, finding a collection of both in his home. He even admitted to a relative his satisfaction with the crime. Pate's guilty plea came in 2015, and he shockingly blamed James for the incident during a post-arrest interview.
221, State versus David Adam Pate, having pled guilty to. There is a benefit to the defendant, and that he gets to. He's still.
And they say God is a God.
He says he'd like to do it again and enjoyed what he did. I can't explain what we just heard, right? Even from that day, watching it again, from sitting across from him.
If anybody ever deserved life in prison, it's David Pate.
He is remorseless, emotionless.
His face tattoos, including Satan and the number 974, hint at a deeper gang affiliation, specifically with the Gangster Disciples, a known U.S. gang. This case underscores the tragic outcome of gang-related violence. Joe Juravicius, a former NFL player from Cleveland, experienced a life-altering robbery at his Gates Mills home on September 14th. After dinner, he went to his barn to turn off the lights and was confronted by an armed robber. The intruder, who stole Juravicius's Super Bowl gloves and wore them during the ordeal to avoid leaving fingerprints, threatened Juravicius with a weapon, demanding cash and electronics, and forced him to open his safe. The situation escalated when the robber, still wearing the gloves, directed Juravicius back to his house, threatening harm if he did not comply.
I sentenced you to 11 years, plus 3 years for the gun, count 8 months. The gun specifications on counts 1, 5.
What happened on that September night changed me, no question. He popped up from behind my barn for 30 minutes. I was terrorized in the expletive house. He asked me to stop swearing at him and threatened to shoot me again in the head. I thank God that it was me and not my wife or my 2 young kids that walked in that barn.
In any way, and never had any intention of doing so.
Holding a
Juravicius, in a bid to protect his family, complied with the demands for money and even offered his Super Bowl ring, which the robber refused, fearing it would lead to his capture. Juravicius managed to escape into his house, securing the door and taking safety measures with his family until law enforcement arrived. The robber, identified as Robert, admitted guilt to multiple charges related to the Juravicius robbery and another incident involving a 70-year-old woman. He claimed the crimes were to settle a $1,500 substance debt under threat from his dealer. However, his plea for understanding was dismissed in court, leading to a chaotic scene as he received a 43-year prison sentence from a Cuyahoga County judge. This sentence was met with outcry from Robert's family, resulting in a fiery removal from the courtroom by deputies. A tragic drunk driving incident in Ula Township, which resulted in the loss of 5 lives, concluded with the sentencing of 23-year-old Matthew Carrier from Fenton. The accident occurred when Carrier, intoxicated, failed to stop at a sign at the intersection of M59 and Argentine Road in May 2017.
I've known that alcohol was a problem for me, and I still chose to drink.
For a period of 390 months.
Pleading no contest, Carrier faced charges related to the crash that claimed the lives of 3 individuals celebrating Candace Dunn's recent accolade as Probation Agent of the Year from the Department of Corrections.
She had dreams of being married, dreams of having children.
At this moment is all there is, and to be mindful of the consequences.
Dunn, 35, her mother Linda K. Hurley, 69, of Macomb County, and Hurley's partner Jerome Joseph Tortomasi, 73, also of Macomb County, lost their lives. Additionally, Justin Andrew Umberto Henderson, 20, and Preston Taylor Wetzel, 24, both from Fenton and in a different vehicle, perished in the accident.
I should have slowed down, opened my eyes, saw the situation for what it was, and really, I see how important it is to use it wisely.
464 days.
She had so much to live for.
Thought through what I was doing. I realize now.
He sent to serve a term in Michigan Department of Corrections for 60 years with credit for.
During the sentencing, Carrier witnessed the profound grief of the victims' families and friends, altered forever by his actions. He faced 19 charges, including second-degree murder, operating while intoxicated, and driving with a suspended license, ultimately receiving a sentence of 32 to 60 years in prison. Brian Novel, 25, was sentenced to 120 days in jail as a period for reflection on proper courtroom behavior following his disrespectful response to a judge. This reaction stemmed from dissatisfaction with a previous bail hearing. Novel faced charges of aggravated assault with a dangerous weapon, alongside pre-existing illegal substance-related charges.
Sir, you were charged with aggravated assault with a weapon, domestic violence battery. The court finds probable cause of their priors on them.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding you. That's the truth. You're not going anywhere.
Judge Hurley, noting Novel's failure to use prior opportunities to reconsider his actions post-substance charges, ruled that Novel would be held without bail. During his appearance, Novel insulted Judge Hurley audibly, shocking everyone present, including other detainees and legal professionals.
Wow, I know, man, but that's the way life is. What did he say? Whoa, bring him back. Whoa. Bring that guy back. Bring him back. Sir, you have nothing. I'm going to send you to another 60 days to run consecutive to the prior 60 days. So now you're up to 120 days in the Broward County Jail. Do you have anything else you'd like to say? All right, sir. Thank you very much. You're done.
As a result, his outburst directly led to a 120-day jail sentence. On July 12, 2015, Condre Duff, a 20-year-old, lost his life at a block party on Brook Street, close to the Eastern Michigan University campus. The incident, which saw over 100 attendees, was a result of a clash between two groups of young men near Cross and Ballard Streets. Duff, hit in the head, was targeted as a form of retaliation for the previous year's fatal incident of 17-year-old Keon Washington at a party in Ypsilanti. Although Duff was initially accused of involvement in Washington's tragedy, charges were dropped due to insufficient evidence.
No mother deserves to bury her son, and no mother deserves to see her son change. My bad choice led to a lose-lose situation. I won't be able to hug mine for a while, and my mom won't be able to hug me for a while, so it's a sad situation. Or that I'm not even that type of person. You know, the lifestyle that I chose to live put me in a situation, you know, full of pride, caught in the streets and in the middle of gangs and all type of other stuff. Possibility for my actions and ready to face the consequences. I want to use my time to make me a better person. It's been 4 years. She hasn't gotten justice or peace of mind because the killer of her son still walks free. Stitching to my brother, Jamar, and everybody, you know, everybody around my age and other people that I be with, you know.
However, this did not deter Jackson and his group from seeking vengeance, igniting a cycle of retaliatory violence between the rival gangs B and Rack Life, to which Duff and Washington respectively belonged. This feud resulted in 7 shootings across Ypsilanti and its township.
We will identify you, we will find you. The violence has escalated and mimicking gang culture by way of fights.
Why didn't they do it when the first person was killed?
The fathers and mothers, I call you out today.
Tariq Jackson, then 18, was later sentenced by Washtenaw County Trial Court Judge Carol Kuhnke to 17 to 40 years in prison on March 21, 2017. During his sentencing, Jackson acknowledged the impact of his actions and offered an apology to Duff's family, albeit considered by some as a delayed gesture of remorse. In June 2006, shortly after turning 18, Dexter Johnson faced minor illegal substance possession charges, separate from a later accusation that led to a death sentence not based on physical evidence, but rather on the testimonies of co-defendants, including his best friend and the friend's girlfriend and her family. Johnson, who had no prior criminal history, was involved in a carjacking and robbery with 4 other teenagers, targeting Maria Aris, 23, and Ungo, 17. The victims were taken to a remote location where Johnson assaulted Aries before he and another teen took the lives of both victims.
It's still not closure for me, you know. Nothing's going to bring Brian and stuff.
And cruel. For those acts, I sentence you to death. You say you hurt my mommy. Hey. Suffice it to say that a precious is this.
I am truly remorseful and deeply sorry.
Despite the grave charges, Johnson, diagnosed with brain damage and schizophrenia at 30, actively pursued legal appeals, challenging his conviction, which his lawyers argued was grounded on unreliable confessions and witness statements. Having struggled with intellectual disabilities from a young age, exacerbated by brain abnormalities, Johnson's condition hindered his ability to effectively participate in his defense. John White, pretending to be a pastor, was charged with the gruesome end of 24-year-old Rebecca Gay, his fiance's daughter. Facing open and first-degree premeditated murder charges, the 55-year-old, with a criminal past, pled guilty to second-degree murder. The crime, described in police reports, was fueled by White's dark fantasies. He confessed to attacking Gay after drinking, using a mallet for the assault, and strangling her with a zip tie. Disturbingly, he admitted uncertainty about whether he acted on his vile intentions with her body post-mortem. White then coldly dressed Gay's 3-year-old son in a Halloween costume and left him with his father, concealing the grim fate of the child's mother. White's calculated actions showed no remorse, shocking his small church community where he served as a pastor. Despite his criminal history, including a 1981 attack on a teenager, White had been accepted into the church, leading many to believe he had changed. However, his true nature was revealed through this heinous act. Rebecca Gay's mother conveyed her deep sorrow in court, highlighting White's lack of remorse.
Is not capable of feeling love or remorse. Your choices have made you what you are. Anyone who can scheme, plan, and carry out such a horrible act deserves to spend the rest of their life in jail.
Given his past and the severity of his latest crime, White was sentenced to 56 years in prison. Yet, unable to confront his actions, he ended his life shortly into his sentence. Manson Bryant, 35, was found guilty in 2018 of charges including robbery, kidnapping, and weapons offenses following an incident involving an armed break-in at a trailer home. During his sentencing in March 2019, after expressing dissatisfaction with the initially proposed 22-year sentence, which was notably longer than his co-defendant's 12 years, Judge Lucci extended Bryant's sentence to 28 years, citing a lack of remorse.
For 4 years for a robbery, he acted out briefly on his way out of the court. The remorse that he was trying to portray was phony. He's going to prey on other people.
Calm down, bro. Let me up the courtroom, man.
Obviously, the defendants were part of organized criminal activity. We had Ms. Medina who gave information.
The decision was upheld by an appellate court in 2020. Representing himself, Bryant challenged this decision, leading to a critical review by the Ohio Supreme Court. In a narrow 4-3 decision, the court overturned the appellate ruling, adjusting Bryant's sentence.
2005, we have more thefts, resisting arrest was his first prison sentence. 2010 was theft with probation violation and also attempted robbery, juvenile prison. He has 4 prior prison terms as an adult on 5 separate cases, which is contempt charges, parole violations, and obviously he has continued to commit crimes now.
The Supreme Court's majority emphasized that, although Ohio law permits consideration of various factors in sentencing, such as the victim's injuries, the defendant's criminal record, and signs of remorse, Bryant's reaction at sentencing warranted a re-evaluation. This resulted in a rare judicial reprieve for Bryant. On June 5, 2020, an incident occurred when Samuel London discovered Raymond Richmond inside his vehicle at a Columbus strip club parking lot, leading to a confrontation and the subsequent firing of London by Richmond. Richmond, who was 14 years old at the time, was arrested 2 months later for his role in this fatal incident, which police described as part of a botched car theft attempt. Despite being offered a plea deal that could have resulted in his release before reaching the age of 35, Richmond, now 17, declined the offer after over 3 years of legal proceedings.
It's a little overwhelming this morning, being in the courtroom and being faced with disagreed about that, and the doctors are in agreement that he does have some, the state has made clear they are withdrawing any future offer.
During a court appearance intended for a guilty plea, Richmond dismissed his public defender, Steve Kraft, expressing his desire to hire a private attorney instead. The proposed plea deal would have reduced the murder charge to voluntary manslaughter, with a sentencing of 20 years in prison, followed by 5 years probation for car entry.
If he does not accept this offer that the state has made,
fought for, from my understanding of the prior record before PAC was appointed the case.
Richmond's dissatisfaction with his legal representation led to this decision, despite concerns from Kraft about Richmond's understanding of the situation. A 19-year-old from Santa Fe, Luke Griffin, admitted guilt in a case involving a DUI crash that claimed the life of Karina Vaden, a 49-year-old woman from Aurora, Colorado, near Algodones. Griffin was sentenced to 9 years and 122 days in prison, with an additional 5 years of supervised probation, as per court records. He will be credited for the 122 days already spent in custody post-crash. On the night of the incident, Griffin had a blood alcohol concentration of 0.22%, significantly above the legal limit. The crash occurred as Griffin, driving south on Interstate 25 late on a Friday in February, collided with the rear of a Nissan, resulting in the fatality of Vaden and critically injuring 2 passengers.
And you agree that resulted in the death of Ms. Vaden? to make something better, and for him to keep doing what he's doing. She was everything to me. So he took away my mother, you know.
We'll ease the pain.
He's just showing his true colors every time. Do something like this, you should feel some sort of way to the point that you want to change. It just shows that he doesn't deserve any sort of freedom. She was everything to me. So he's just showing his true colors every time. He took away my mother, you know. It's been a lot. It's been a lot.
Griffin's guilty plea included charges of vehicular homicide while intoxicated and 2 counts of causing great bodily harm by vehicle under the influence.
I am extremely sorry for my actions.
It's been a lot. It's been a lot. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all after he's already been tested positive on the other times.
There's no words that I can say that will bring anyone back.
Yes, I was under the influence of alcohol at the time. I was driving on the highway and crashed into another vehicle.
It's very hurtful when people keep giving someone chances, and
his plea deal specifies that these charges aren't considered serious violent offenses, allowing for the possibility of his sentence being halved for good behavior. Witnesses reported Griffin's vehicle speeding at approximately 100 miles per hour and possibly discarding a liquor bottle from the car. In 2015, the discovery of Lopez's body was made around noon on March 25th in the yard of a residence located at the intersection of Dwight and Calhoun Streets in the city's north end, according to police reports. He had been attacked during the night. Investigating the possibility of gang involvement, police managed to identify several suspects, leading to the arrest of Lee Rios alongside his associates, Valerie Medina, 22, Darrell Self, 19, and Jonathan Guerra, 18.
During sentencing, to explain to the defendant, it's not important for me to offer more comments to deliver. As Attorney Stam has, I believe, correctly noted the facts of this particular case. As to count 1, I understand the count will be following another procedure, is that correct? That's correct, Your Honor. Okay, that is to be filed for.
Rios, once again becoming a prime suspect in the Lopez case, faced police action with warrants issued for both his arrest and a search of his Nursery Street apartment. The search was a significant breakthrough, revealing a large collection of weapons. Confronted by the evidence, Rios provided information to the authorities. Though he later attempted to have his confessions excluded from the trial, he claimed his substance-induced state made him incapable of comprehending his rights at the time. However, this argument was not accepted, leading to Rios, identified as a member of the Latin Kings gang, receiving a life sentence without parole. Melissa Hardwick is now facing additional legal trouble after attacking a judge during a family court proceeding. The case began with her ex-husband accusing her of domestic abuse, leading to a request for a protective order against her. During the hearing, which veered off course, Hardwick was given a 10-day jail sentence, prompting a terrifying reaction from her. Despite multiple warnings, she repeatedly interrupted the proceedings and refused to be silent, leading to a contempt of court charge.
My personal life is
No.
your business. It has nothing to do with
Miss
your
Hardwick,
boys. No.
you will be held in contempt of this court if you become disruptive.
I don't care. I haven't done anything to this court. I haven't done anything to him.
She will be
It
arrested
doesn't
for
make
contempt
any-
of the
It
court.
doesn't make any difference.
You will serve 10 days for contempt of court. Go now. And are you asking the court to enter an order restraining the respondent from any contact with you?
In a dramatic scene, Hardwick lunged over the courtroom bench, requiring the intervention of 3 security officers to subdue her, during which she sustained a facial scratch. Fortunately, the judge was unharmed.
Wait and see. You'll be saying what happens, Jennifer.
Ultimately, Hardwick received a 120-day jail sentence for contempt, along with facing charges of third-degree terrorism, resisting arrest, and threatening a court participant. In Florida, 17-year-old Noah Thomas Glay faces vehicular manslaughter charges for causing a crash that claimed the lives of 6 people while driving at speeds reaching 151 miles per hour. Prior to the accident, Glay had shared videos on social media, including one showing him driving at 182 miles per hour, and encouraged followers to guess his speed for a cash prize.
You just don't want to have that call saying your kid's dead.
It is a hazard, and people get real close and they don't drive to the distance.
The BMW struck a gray Nissan Rogue.
The crash occurred in Del Beach on January 27th when Glay's 2019 BMW M5 collided with an SUV, resulting in the loss of 6 individuals, identified as workers from Perro Family Farms returning from their jobs. Investigations suggested Glay was under the influence at the time of the accident. The teen, who survived with minor injuries, admitted to driving over 120 miles per hour when questioned.
Get on a road like this, it's a death trap.
When he drove in the back, when he crashed into the vehicle again, there was no brake applied. Our investigation shows he was traveling 151 miles an hour.
Following a tip-off about his reckless driving posts, police obtained evidence of his high-speed antics from his Instagram account. Glay, who was driving a BMW capable of reaching speeds up to 189 miles per hour, hit a Nissan Rogue, claiming the lives of all occupants including Moran Juice, Ra Michelle, Marie M. Louis, Fane D., and Venice Pina. The families of the victims have expressed their grief and called for justice in court. After months of investigation, Glay pleaded guilty and was charged with 6 counts of vehicular manslaughter, with each count potentially leading to a 15-year sentence. His bail was set at $300,000. On November 22, 2016, Titus Lee assaulted a couple relaxing on their porch in an apartment complex on Litchfield Way, where he also resided with his family. The male victim reported that Lee's attack left him with injuries requiring over a dozen staples. Following the assault, he was confined in a closet as Lee turned his aggression towards the female victim.
That defendant be in prison for a minimum of 240 months, maximum 348 months.
It's significantly harder than it was ever supposed to be. My innocence is now gone. I found a friend for dinner. Things that are supposed to be easier now are hard because I'm constantly looking over my shoulder. And stealing my joy will not stop me from growing into the best version of myself.
The ordeal, lasting several hours, included being forced to withdraw money from an ATM and the theft of their Xbox and other electronic items. Lee threatened their lives if they contacted law enforcement. Overwhelmed with fear, the couple fled to Cherry Grove, South Carolina, to seek safety with the male victim's parents. Lee was apprehended in Philadelphia by U.S. Marshals weeks later and in May 2021 received a prison sentence exceeding 100 years. The Wayne County Prosecutor's Office reported that a Detroit jury found 30-year-old William Wilborn Little guilty of taking the lives of 3 men in a fast food restaurant. Little was convicted in circuit court of 3 counts of first-degree murder and 2 weapon-related charges. According to police, 2 individuals with masks approached a White Castle on the west side of Detroit just after midnight, opened fire inside, and then escaped on foot. The incident resulted in the demise of 25-year-old Rashawn Harrington, 24-year-old Trayvon Anthony, and 20-year-old Desson Gatson. During Little's sentencing, Tanya Gadsden, speaking on Monday, addressed the court.
Who's 2 years old out to the cemetery to see his...
Little received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. On March 27, 2017, 17-year-old Raymond Wood was enticed from his home under the pretense of an illegal substance transaction, subsequently kidnapped and taken to Roaring Run Road. There, he was discovered with 29 stab wounds, indicative of the severe torture he underwent.
Has finally gotten to a day of justice for Raymond Wood and his family.
Posada Vasquez
together and deemed it appropriate as some form of consideration for that taking of responsibility. This was a horrific crime, and it required, even with the acceptance of response.
Posada Vasquez, identified as one of the MS-13 gang members involved, inflicted several of these lethal injuries. The extreme violence of the attack was linked to gang practices, where increased brutality is associated with higher gang status. The assailants alternated in stabbing Wood to escalate their standing within the gang. Danny Ventura from Maryland transported Pat Vasquez, Christian Sanchez Gomez, and Kevin Soto Bonia from Maryland to Lynchburg to coordinate with Victoria Rodas and Josue Corres Ventura, playing a significant role in the orchestration of the crime. Consequently, Corres Ventura, Soto Bonia, and Sanchez Gomez faced charges related to their involvement in the fatal incident, tied to gang activity. In the Oakland County Circuit Court, attorney Paul Nicoletti is involved in legal proceedings against his ex-client, Karen Stevens. The situation escalated when Stevens claimed Nicoletti was seeking a personal protection order against her, although no such order had been officially issued yet. During the court session, Stevens interrupted the judge mid-sentence, leading to a disruptive outburst that the judge deemed as causing a disturbance. As a consequence, the judge imposed a $500 fine on Stevens for her disruptive behavior. This penalty came on top of her failing to secure sanctions against Nicoletti.
How can you ask to sanction someone when you haven't even been served?
That's the point.
Stevens, do not interrupt me when I'm speaking, ma'am. Your relief is denied, and in addition to that, I am sanctioning you with costs of $500.
Thank you, Your Honor. Despite her evident frustration with the judge's ruling, Stevens responded with a smile, an action that further exasperated the judge, who then threatened her with contempt of court unless she exited the courtroom.
I knew it was fixed.
I beg your pardon?
I said I knew it was fixed.
Other than your own personal vendetta against this man, I did not issue a PPO. And here you are taking up my time so that you want me to chastise him and make him pay money? No, ma'am.
On a quiet October night in 2014, Roxana Sikorski's mental struggles reached a breaking point. Once full of life, Roxana was deeply scarred by reactive attachment disorder, making emotional connections elusive. That night, driven by inner demons, she attacked her brother, marking the start of a horrifying episode that extended to her entire family. This act of violence within their home led to a desperate fight for survival. Despite the terror, the family's unity and love shone through as they defended each other.
To have potentially her mother, father, sister, brother.
I'm very worried about her, and also her mental status at that time, too.
She was misled and used by an older adult. However, nothing will benefit this child by sending her to jail.
Is extremely bizarre.
Roxana's attempt to harm Moore was stopped, but the incident left deep emotional scars and unfulfilled dreams. This night of tragedy highlighted the fragile human mind and the lasting impact of trauma. Healing for Roxana Sikorski and her relatives would be difficult, involving a journey through personal turmoil towards finding hope in darkness.
I would like to apologize. And I will see Lucas and Angelica again. I'm sorry. And I promise that I will get better. I'm sorry. No matter what happens. And I will see Lucas and Angelica again.
Despite everything, their experience underscored the strength of familial bonds in overcoming profound challenges. Nicholas Tonira's marriage ended in tragedy when he took the lives of his estranged wife, Melissa, and her new partner, Justin Daniels, on September 27, 2014. The dissolution of their marriage had deeply affected Tonira, leading to dark outcomes. Information emerged post-tragedy, painting a grim picture of Tonira's state of mind. He had expressed a wish for self-destruction, implicating Melissa's new relationship as a catalyst. On the night of the incident, a voicemail captured the sound of weapon firing, marking the moment of the crime without any voices discernible. The discovery of the victims followed a 911 call reporting an unconscious woman, initially mistaken for a Halloween setup, on a sidewalk. Responding officers found Melissa Tonira deceased. Further investigation led to Justin Daniels' body inside a nearby apartment. This horrifying act triggered an Amber Alert for the couple's 8-year-old daughter, who was later found safe. Autopsies confirmed both victims suffered numerous fatal wounds from the weapon. Just days before the incident, Nicholas and Melissa Tonira had initiated divorce proceedings.
You, Nick, loved Melissa like you said you did. Why did you her?
A lot of work to do. We still have a lot of interviews. We still have a lot of evidence to process. Officers responding to the scene found the female in a pool.
Didn't even have that apartment a week that she was in front of.
Felt that was something that I needed to do on behalf of my sister and Justin.
Following the incident, Nicholas sought refuge with his mother, claiming distress and illness. He initially provided an alibi of being home and asleep, later contradicted by his presence at his mother's house post-crime and his inconsistent statements regarding his whereabouts. Ultimately, Nicholas Tonira received a life sentence for the double homicide, a case underscored by betrayal, lost love, and irreversible actions, leaving an indelible mark on all involved. A mother, Donna Coleman, received a 93-day jail sentence after she was seen smiling during a victim impact statement at her daughter's DUI manslaughter trial. Initially, Judge Kiana Lillard reprimanded Coleman for her laughter and insensitivity during a time of grief for the victim's family. The situation escalated when Coleman's daughter, Amanda, had a dramatic outburst while awaiting her sentence for taking the life of Jerome Zerker, a father of 5. Following this, Coleman was arrested for contempt of court.
The sentence of this court that you will serve 3 to 15 years in the Michigan Department of Correction.
After spending a night in jail, Coleman appeared before Judge Lillard again, this time tearfully apologizing for her behavior.
I brought this matter back today because yesterday I held Ms. Coleman in direct criminal contempt because of her disrespectful and disruptive behavior during the sentencing of her daughter, who is being sentenced for operating while impaired, causing. Is there something you'd like to say?
Yes, I deeply apologize for what I did. I was under a lot of stress. I'm going through some doctor's appointments today for my heart. It's just everything overwhelmed, and I deeply apologize for what I did in your court. I just needed to get out.
She expressed deep regret and explained the stress she was under due to the overwhelming circumstances in her life. Gang violence, a blight on society, impacts even those uninvolved in its dark deeds. The tragic story of 15-year-old Leandro Jr Guzman, still circulating on social media, highlights the enduring horror of such acts. On the night of June 20th, 2018, Guzman ventured out to meet a friend, but soon found himself in peril, noticing 4 suspicious vehicles. His attempt to flee led him to a bodega in the Bronx, seeking shelter.
Part in one of the most disturbing that this city and this nation has
never to lose his son in the way I lose my son, Junior.
Gang is going to help you get money or protection, but in the end, it will destroy.
I'm still waiting for the divine justice. The divine justice has to come for them.
Despite initial hesitation, the store owner allowed him to hide, but gang members found and forcibly removed Guzman from the premises. The brutal attack was recorded on both CCTV and by bystanders, showing the young teen being assaulted with knives and machetes. In a desperate bid for help, Guzman ran towards St. Barnabas Hospital.
Muchachos que estaban atrás de él estaban ya en la puerta, también empujando la puerta de atrás. Estaban asaltando sobre el counter sin decirte nada. Vamos a reaccionar, pienso de esa forma.
Misidentified by the Trinitario gang as a rival member, Guzman who had no gang affiliations, was murdered in a tragic case of mistaken identity. The bodega owner's mother had a heart attack after viewing the security footage of the incident and passed away. The bodega owner himself had thoughts of self-harm and had to seek psychological therapy.
Which means you plead guilty to 2 separate charges, one more serious than the other. There are certain conditions that serious charge gets withdrawn and vacated, and you get sentenced on the more lesser.
The community's response to the incident reflected widespread outrage and sorrow over such senseless violence. Grace Elizabeth Coleman from Orange County received a 21-year-to-life sentence for a DUI incident in Newport Beach on December 8, 2020, that claimed the life of a Santa Ana couple and injuries to their 3 daughters. Coleman accepted a plea deal to avoid a potential trial that could have led to a 42-year-to-life sentence.
To Ruth, that they would want you to continue to live your life with joy. I'm sorry. I sense strongly those precious girls to appreciate every day.
Falling into a bush.
And she walked past these crying girls to leave the scene.
On the night of the tragedy, after being driven home once, Coleman chose to drive her Range Rover with a blood alcohol content of 0.22%, significantly above the legal limit.
She's transported by a person to the safety of her home.
Her car landed in a position where she'd have to walk past that victim vehicle.
And very seriously injured 3 others.
She crashed into the Nissan of Henry Eduardo Sanamaiha, 27, and Gabriela M. Ander, 28, who were enjoying Christmas lights with their daughters. The crash, which occurred as Coleman ran a red light at 75 miles per hour, left the couple without the signs of life and their daughters with broken bones.
And within 10 minutes, drove and two people and did not drive and chose to then get in her vehicle within minutes of arriving home. She consumed several mixed drinks and is on video.
Coleman's sentencing does not include the option for probation. In Detroit, 46-year-old Torius In faced charges for taking the life of Gracie Hughes and arson, announced by prosecutor Kim Worthy. According to police in Worthy, firefighters went to the home and discovered Hughes's body after they extinguished the fire that had been set. Hughes' body had been burned, and there was trauma to her head and multiple knife wounds to her body, the prosecutor said.
You don't someone 67 times and think that it's a game?
Detroit police linked In to the crime, leading to his arrest and charges of murder and arson. His court dates for further hearings were pending. Shortly after Hughes's tragic loss, a vigil drew many to remember her at the decaying family home.
He has taken an innocent life.
A jury convicted In of second-degree murder amidst community speculation and insistence on checking surveillance from Hughes's frequented store for evidence of their association. Virginia Hughes, her niece, highlighted community efforts in In's swift arrest, noting his unfamiliarity in the neighborhood.
Under her fingernails. Whoever that person is, I'm sorry for your loss. I'll miss Gracie too.
Despite claiming innocence and expressing loss in court, In received a 37 to 66-year prison sentence, with Hughes's family advocating for severe punishment due to the perceived betrayal and suffering inflicted. Kenneth Atkins, a pastor infamous for his anti-gay stance, was found guilty of 8 child molestation charges and 1 count of witness tampering. The charges originated from his inappropriate relationships with a teenage boy and girl from his congregation. The victims, a brave young couple, sought justice 7 years ago. The male victim, an Army serviceman, revealed that he had given his girlfriend to Atkins when they were just 15. The trial exposed Atkins's manipulation of the teenagers, leading to their exploitation. The male victim testified about Atkins's sexual acts with them, even in Atkins's car. The female victim denied any sexual involvement, but the state argued her vulnerability under Atkins's influence due to her living situation with him and his wife.
I did not molest any child. I did not touch anybody. I didn't have anybody. I didn't allow anybody to have oral me. I did not do that.
Despite substantial evidence, including damning photos and messages, Atkins insisted on his innocence. After the verdict, he admitted to poor decisions, but denied any involvement with the teenagers. Atkins' initial role as a mentor turned into betrayal when the young man exposed their past relationship to protect others. As the trial concluded, Atkins' accusers felt validated. The mother of one victim expressed relief and gratitude for the acknowledgement of her son's ordeal.
I personally believe that I was not only prosecuted but convicted because of who I am and not for what I did. But with that being said, sir, I'm ready to face whatever it is that this court decides.
On sentencing day, Atkins, stripped of his confidence, received a life sentence from Judge Stephen Scarlett for his heinous crimes. However, Atkins could be eligible for probation after 35 years. Anthony Reading, known for his history of violent crimes, including aggravated and felonious bodily harm convictions in 2015 and 2008, was sentenced again after he assaulted his girlfriend, causing her to lose an eye. At his trial in Union County Common Pleas Court, Reading exhibited aggressive behavior, making threatening gestures towards the jury. Following his conviction on a felonious assault charge, he reacted violently, verbally abusing the judge and tearing his shirt in defiance, leading to him being restrained. He also directed insults at a sheriff's deputy, calling him Satan.
That you have reached a verdict, is that correct?
Yes.
This hearing finding the defendant.
8 warrants the most strict and stringent sentence available.
This would be ruination of my life. Once stick me in, there's no sense in the
court finds that there's no genuine remorse shown here.
Ultimately, Reading was handed an 18-year maximum prison sentence. His outbursts hinted at underlying issues, as he mentioned suffering from a traumatic brain injury and claimed he was deprived of his medication while detained at Tri-County Regional Jail, suggesting there might be mitigating factors to consider in his behavior. The family of a 65-year-old motorcyclist deceased in a DUI crash in March 2013 on Palmetto Park Road is suing the parents of the 17-year-old from Boca Raton responsible for the accident. The lawsuit, filed in Palm Beach County Circuit Court, accuses Adam Descal's parents of being indirectly responsible for their son's actions, highlighting that Michael Descal, the owner of the 2008 Infiniti Adam was driving, should have been aware of his son's illegal substance use and the risk of him driving under the influence. The lawsuit argues that both Michael and Lisa Descal, as Adam's legal guardians, are liable. Adam, who was 16 at the time, was under the influence when he collided with Camel Pet, causing fatal head and chest injuries to Pet, who was not wearing a helmet.
We have asked for him to surrender. He has absolutely no history. He is a good student. He's a good kid.
Adam surrendered to authorities 5 months after the incident and was released on a $50,000 bond, with conditions including a driving ban and a curfew. The Pet family, seeking more than the legal system's penalties, filed a lawsuit against the Daskal family for their perceived negligence. Tracy Hunter, once a juvenile court judge in Hamilton County, Ohio, tarnished her reputation through actions that led to her 2013 conviction for abusing her office. Hunter, celebrated as the first African-American woman elected to this position in 2010, became a controversial figure in Cincinnati. Her tenure was marred by misconduct, including using her judicial power to access restricted information for her brother, a corrections officer accused of inmate abuse, and manipulating court documents to obstruct appeals against her decisions. Convicted in 2014, Hunter remained at liberty during her appeals until 2019, when her legal challenges concluded. During her sentencing, she resisted leaving the courtroom, resulting in her being physically removed by a deputy.
I would never blame Tracy Hunter for this. No, it wasn't her fault.
When that day was going to come and she'd have to go to jail. That's a lot.
Hunter's imprisonment lasted 75 days, in addition to her covering $34,000 in legal fees and completing mandated community service. Her departure from the courtroom, marked by physical removal, is a significant and notorious moment in her career. Calvin Thomas Creek, a man from Cleveland, was discovered deceased in the Cherokee National Forest, with authorities estimating his body had been in a ravine for nearly 10 days. Creek was last observed departing from Tonava Hospital 2 weeks before his mother reported him missing on March 23rd. After an extensive 4-day search, Creek's remains were found in the National Forest. Police are now searching for Shane Scott Hale, an acquaintance of Creek, though details of their relationship remain unclear. Chief Mark Gibson hinted at potential motives behind the incident, but withheld specifics to conclude the ongoing investigation.
Through interviews with parties that have knowledge of the case, we were able to determine a possible location. We do have possible motives, but again, we're still trying to tie down those loose ends of the investigation. So we don't know the exact cause of death. The information that we received is that he's possibly was shot.
When we seen all that, something was wrong. The only thing you see through here is Forestry Department.
Both Hale and Creek have significant criminal records, with Creek recently arrested for aggravated assault and kidnapping, and Hale previously incarcerated for theft and substance offenses. Despite this, Chief Gibson reassured the public there's no immediate threat, suggesting this was not a random act of violence. Renee Scoggan from South Dakota went to Tampa Bay and found herself in legal trouble after she lied to the police.
Do you have any questions?
Your Honor, if we could request from the court.
This is really unbelievable that she had had consensual sexual intercourse with an individual while in Hillsborough County, that she felt guilty about this due to her marital status, and she wanted to get checked for sexually transmitted diseases.
She felt bad about having an affair and told the police a man had attacked her. She claimed he covered her head with a towel, forced her into her car, and tied her up. She even called 911, saying she was a and needed tests for STDs without cost.
I was just raped.
I'm sorry?
I was just...
Okay, how long ago did this happen?
Maybe like 45 minutes ago. He put rope on my hands and my feet.
However, her story fell apart when the police found a video of her buying rope at Walmart by herself. Confronted with this evidence, Scoglan admitted she made the whole thing up and was charged with filing a false police report. She took a plea deal, admitting to her actions.
An unknown male approached her, put a towel over her head, and forced her into the back seat of her car.
I never sentenced anybody for perjury, but it's a good reminder to everybody that perjury is a crime, and all of this stuff that you made up and the resources expended on it could have been used and probably needed to be used by other cases that were real.
The judge pointed out the seriousness of lying to the police, noting that the effort and money spent on her fake report could have been used elsewhere. Scoglan's consequences include 2 years of close supervision, 8 years on probation, and she must pay back over $17,000 to the Hillsborough Sheriff's Office for the cost of investigating her false claim. In 2006, Clifford and Rocky Houston were implicated in a deadly exchange with Roane County Deputy Bill Jones and his companion, Mike Brown, while officers were trying to serve Rocky Houston with an arrest warrant. The brothers argued it was self-defense, suggesting the officers intended to kill them. Due to unclear evidence on who fired first, they were acquitted, with Rocky being cleared of murder in November 2009. Recently, the Houston brothers, Rocky, 52, and Leon, 54, were detained under a federal warrant related to illegal possession of weapons. Rocky was charged for having weapons as a convicted felon, while Leon faced charges for possessing weapons as an unlawful substance user. The arrest was conducted by ATF, Roane County Sheriff's Office, and other local forces.
Man come in here to follow suit, and Mr. Frank Bettatori walked through talking to the clerks back here. See,
it's all in-house. It's all in-house conspiracy. It's called a criminal enterprise.
Leon Houston, acting pro se, his own attorney, he's doing his business from the clerk's window. Mr. Bettatori's back here whispering in Angel Randolph's ear. Governor Griffin received a subpoena at noon early this week to be in here. You don't see nobody. You don't, nobody showed. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
The Postmaster General.
Excuse me.
The Postmaster General in Washington, D.C. was subpoenaed to be here today. Nobody showed us. Nobody showed us.
It's a government conspiracy.
It shows that the process is a joke.
This is terrorism. This is domestic terrorism in its plainest form.
Hey, Leon, I'll say one thing.
Right here in Roane County Courthouse, it is domestic terrorism.
I want to say one thing.
Rocky, did I not hear you ask the judge for jail time in the courtroom?
Yeah, because I honestly believe, according to some of the case law I'm looking at, that I should have been sentenced to at least 1 day for Argersinger versus Hamlin. My appeal attorney says it's coming back to him. That's what he's saying. Mr. Gully says this thing is coming back to him post-conviction relief.
So you're not happy that you're walking out without any more jail time?
I'm not happy. Mr. Blackwood denied some motions that had merit. He should have granted motions to continue. He should have granted motions to recuse. He should have gave my lawyer time to. He said one of those transcripts had 500 pages in it, just one of them right there. My attorney. I feel like Rocky Houston should have the right to have a thing.
Rocky Houston, previously held in Bradley County, has been moved from federal custody to a Knoxville halfway house, aiming to reintegrate into society. He is allowed limited freedom to seek employment. This follows a 2014 sentence of 9 years for weapon possession as a felon, a charge brought after a 2013 ATF raid on their Roane County home. Christine Young confronted Jared Chance, the man responsible for the murder and dismemberment of her daughter, Ashley Young. During a court appearance, Christine expressed her profound grief and anguish, with a box containing Ashley's ashes present beside her, symbolizing what remains of her daughter.
You had no right to take her from me! I cry 7 days a week! 7! This is what's left of my daughter. If I want a hug, I have to hug a box and close my eyes and pretend that she is hugging me back.
Ashley had gone missing prior to the discovery of her tragic fate, prompting her mother to contact Jared Chance, who was initially Ashley's friend. Investigators found Ashley's torso in the basement of Chance's home in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it was believed that Chance used a power saw to dismember her body. However, he has refused to disclose the location of Ashley's head, hands, and feet, leaving parts of her remains missing.
Do you remember texting me? I would never do anything to hurt her. I swear on my life. Do you remember that? Do you? Ashley was already and dismembered when you text that to me.
Throughout the confrontation in court, Chance remained unemotional, even as Christine Young expressed her sorrow and anger, wearing a t-shirt in memory of her daughter and denouncing Chance's actions.
I hate you. I want to you from limb and discard you like trash, like what you did to Ashley.
Take him to prison, please.
Jared Chance was subsequently sentenced to 200 years in prison, with the stipulation that he would not be eligible for parole until the age of 130, effectively ensuring he spends the remainder of his life behind bars. Blocked to her neck and dropping her from a bridge in Fort Worth, Texas, into Lake Worth. A witness recounted the chilling sound of her screams as she plummeted 40 feet, indicating she was still alive when thrown and ultimately drowned. Elizabeth, a 28-year-old medical assistant, was found still in her maroon work scrubs. Throughout the trial, Elizabeth's family expressed their deep sorrow and anger towards Ariano. Her mother, overcome with grief, collapsed outside the courtroom.
Looks like they might have been tied to something. They might have been tied to something. Yeah, they hit the water and they're gone.
We know that the cause of death is drowning, so she was certainly alive.
Elizabeth's sisters, Alejandra and Johanna, shared poignant victim impact statements, shedding light on the profound impact of their loss.
You are a monster. I hate you. I hate you. You're a piece of You kidnapped her, you raped her, and then you threw her away into the lake like nothing. She was everything to me. She will never get to see her kids grow up. She will continue to miss out on all the holidays. She will miss out on all the high school graduations.
The family's anguish is deepened by the vicious nature of her death and the realization of the countless life moments she will now miss. A Macomb County jury delivered a heavy verdict against 3 Detroit guys, Darius Diaz, Ghassan Jar Robinson, and Kenneth Hill, for the 2014 murder of Basim Salaka during a holdup at his party store in Clinton Township. The verdict, coming after 2 days of deliberation, spelled life sentences without the chance of parole for all 3, charged with first-degree murder, armed robbery, conspiracy, and firearm felonies. The emotional trial, overseen by Judge Mary Kolakian, culminated in tears from both the defendants and the victims' families. Linda Salaka, the widow, expressed a bittersweet sense of justice for her late husband. The prosecution painted a picture of a cold, calculated attack, highlighting the callous disregard shown by Robinson as he stepped over Salaka's body and Diaz-Ghassan's fatal act.
To the my brother in cold, I hope that while you spend the rest of your life in prison, you actually reflect on the awful decisions you've made in your life. You have the blood of a loving father, husband, son, and brother on your hands.
I didn't say the B word. You can play the record. You hear it for yourself?
This ain't over yet. What does that mean? Fill us in, because you know what? I'm a little worried for them.
Oh, I know.
Hill, who is hearing impaired, was pegged as the getaway driver, coordinating with the group that included his cousin Clinton Grayson, who had already been sentenced to life. Dressed to be inconspicuous, the group executed the robbery with chilling precision, marking a tragic end for Salaka and an irreversible course for themselves. In 2011, a case involving the murder of 3 men in Berkshire County, which had ties to the Hells Angels, was reviewed by the Supreme Judicial Court. The court upheld Adam Lee Hall's conviction for 3 counts of first-degree murder and dismissed his appeal for a new trial.
During the verdict, I ask that you be respectful of that decision and bear in mind that we are in a courtroom. There are any emotional reactions or outbursts, I will ask the court officers to remove that person from the courtroom. Bring the hearing to close.
However, it overturned his kidnapping conviction from a year prior to the murders. Hall, identified as a high-ranking member of the local Hells Angels, was initially sentenced to 5 life terms, but will now serve 4. His co-defendants, David Shalo and Kai Vovis, also found guilty of the murders, continue to serve life sentences without parole.
By this court, are these your verdicts?
No.
Jury in seat number 2, the verdicts that were just recorded by this court, are these your verdicts?
Yes. Our system of criminal justice and our goal to make certain that every party has a fair trial.
On Sunday afternoon to meet with you.
20 miles away at a barbecue.
I also hope that you understand what an important contribution you have made to the quality of justice in your community. We certainly do.
The victims, David Glasser, Edward Frampton, and Robert Chadwell, were found wounded, dismembered, and buried in a ditch 2 weeks after they were last seen at Glasser's home on August 27, 2011. In a quiet neighborhood, a shocking secret was hidden behind the appearance of a normal teenager. Joshua Phillips, a 14-year-old, committed a horrifying act of violence in November 1998. Joshua and his 8-year-old neighbor, Maddie Clifton, were playing when he accidentally hit her with a baseball. Panicking about how his abusive father would react, Joshua tragically decided to silence Maddie to hide the accident. In a moment of fear and desperation, he took Maddie's life and hid her body under his bed. When Maddie's body was found, the shocking truth came out. In court, Joshua didn't defend himself.
This is for the family of Maddie Clifton, and I'm grateful that this chance to do so in person has arrived. I've wanted to say this for a very long time. I don't pretend to know or understand your pain or to grasp the void that I have created in your lives. Growing up in prison, I've seen many dark things, and I've been to dark places. I do understand pain. I have become quite intimate with suffering. During these times, I was embroiled in a flurry of emotions and feelings. Guilt. Many times throughout this journey, I came dreadfully close to ending my life just to escape it all. Despair, pain, hopelessness, fear, and shame. There were times that I was angry at her because I couldn't end my pain because of her love. Each time I was somehow able to continue on, mostly because I couldn't stand to put my mother through any more trauma. Yet now, I'm eternally grateful to her. I've learned to see the beauty and joy in a world full of strife. I'm grateful to her because as I've grown up, I have learned the value of life and experienced the truth of unconditional love. I wish to God that I could have known this. I had no clue what life meant, what meant, nor the depths of suffering, or understood it when I was 14. Had I then, none of this would have come about. I had no inkling of how long that suffering could last. I hadn't lived long enough to understand the time involved. It is just unfathomable that all this could have occurred from the world. It tears my mind asunder to know that I stole such a precious life from you. I so wish I could take away your pain, but not a day goes by that I don't think of what led me to where I'm at. I thank God that I've been able to continue on in life and grow, not in prison, but in life. I pray every day that you're able to live your life in spite of the injury I've caused you. That any joy that arises in my heart is immediately tempered. I'm supremely grateful to have an opportunity of physical freedom. The knowledge that these proceedings bring all involved once again, face to face with the horror that occurred in 1998. And I thank God repeatedly for giving me hope. When I walk the rec yard here in chains, I look to the sky through mesh wiring. My hopes, fears, and wishes probably mean nothing to you, but they're there all the same. My next breath is always devoted to wishing peace and healing upon you. May you know peace. May you be free from suffering. God bless you and heal your wounds as much as possible. And may you feel the love that is the sustenance of life itself.
And he was quickly sentenced to spend his life in prison without the chance of parole. Keith Ferguson, a 40-year-old from Kalaska, Michigan, was in the midst of a divorce from his wife, Tiffany, with whom he shared 4 children. Their home had become a battleground of escalating conflicts. On a fateful day, their argument turned violent, with Keith assaulting Tiffany before attacking her. He then took his children, driving them to Tiffany's parents' house, where he brutally took the life of their grandfather in front of them. The tragedy didn't end there. Ferguson proceeded to take hostages at a neighboring house, leading to a 7-hour standoff with police before his arrest.
Defendant has already and murdered multiple people and fled and has taken hostages.
In court, Ferguson's behavior was shockingly indifferent, showing no remorse for his actions or the pain he caused, even during the emotionally charged victim impact statements.
Mr. Ferguson, can I get you to stand up there at the podium, please? All right, I need to have you raise your right hand for me. Okay. Okay, stop.
Tiffany's best friend, highlighted Tiffany's conflicted feelings of fear and hope for Keith's behavior.
One day, we would her. She would always reply, "He loves his kids too much. He won't. He loved them so much, he murdered their mother and grandfather."
Ultimately, the judge sentenced Ferguson to life without parole, citing his lack of empathy and the gravity of his crimes, rejecting any insanity defense, and emphasizing the calculated nature of his actions.
You may not meet the clinical definition of insanity, but there's clearly something fundamentally wrong with you.
God help.
Ferguson's nonchalant demeanor couldn't change the grim reality of spending his life behind bars for the atrocities he committed. Noma Graber, a Spanish teacher at Fairfield High School, had Willard Miller as one of her students. Displeased with a poor grade from Graber, Miller and his friend Goodale plotted to end her life.
We then moved her off of the trail, where I then struck her, and she died as a result.
They planned for Goodale to keep watch as Graber took her usual walk in Chowtoka Park. Unbeknownst to Graber, as she passed by, Miller attacked her from behind, striking her head.
We discussed a general plan. I'll stand up here, look out, wait for Miss Graber to show up.
Fearing she was still alive, he hit her several more times. They then dragged her into the woods and fatally hit her with a baseball bat, with only a vague plan to conceal her body, naively hoping it would remain undiscovered.
Here she comes, and she walked by and hit her in the back of the head, and then I said, "Oh shit, make sure she's so we hit her a couple more times." What was the plan after that? There wasn't really a plan beyond that. Like hide the body, bury the body, save the body? At that time we were going to hide the body. I guess in our arrogance, we kind of assumed that nobody would ever find her.
Shortly after the crime, both youths were apprehended, partly due to Snapchat messages shared between them that suggested their involvement in the murder.
I understood that he had the intent to Mrs. Graber.
What is your plea to murder in the first degree, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Goodale, who admitted his guilt and agreed to testify against Miller, was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years, expressing remorse and a wish to undo his actions.
I had time to think on what to say, and I'm sorry, truly sorry. Every day I wish I could go back and stop myself. I can't comprehend losing a loved one in such an awful way.
The defendants shall be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years.
Miller also accepted full responsibility and apologized to Graber's family, asking for leniency in his sentencing.
I would like to take this opportunity to wholeheartedly accept responsibility for the role that I've played in human Graber. To the family, I'm sincerely sorry for the distress that I've caused you and the devastation, and I ask that I'm given a chance, and I don't want to be institutionalized. I don't want to be in so long that I forget about what mattered, where I come from, and I look forward to getting through this.
He received a life sentence with the chance of parole after 35 years.
The defendant, Willard Noble Chayton Miller, should be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 35 years.
Despite the gravity of the sentence, Miller's reaction was notably detached, marking the end of the case and their accountability for the tragic loss of Noma Graber. Rachel Schoaf, Shelia Eddy, and Skylar Neese were once friends until Schoaf and Eddy decided they no longer wanted Neese in their circle and plotted to end her life.
Their scheme was to hide knives on their bodies and to attack Skylar at an agreed-upon moment.
They hid knives on themselves and, at an agreed moment, attacked Neese, resulting in her demise. Afterward, Schoaf's confession led to the arrest of both her and Eddy.
Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf carried out that plan. Together they stabbed and killed Skylar.
Schoaf, in exchange for pleading guilty to second-degree murder and assisting the investigation, was sentenced to 30 years with the chance of parole after 10, due to her cooperation and remorse, which she expressed in court, apologizing to Neese's family and her own.
I'm so sorry. I don't know if there's a proper way to make this apology because there are not even words to describe the guilt and remorse that I feel each day for what I've done. I hurt the Neese family and those who love Skylar. I hurt my parents and shamed my family. May God bring eternal peace to Skylar and the entire Neese family.
Rachel Schoaf, it is the sentence of the court that you be imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for a period of 30 years. It is the sentence of the court that you be imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for the rest of your natural life. That sentence is technically with mercy, which makes you eligible for parole after you have served 15 years.
Eddie, however, faced a stiffer penalty, receiving a life sentence, but with the possibility of parole after 15 years, reflecting the differences in their involvement and responses to the investigation. Jujuan Parks, a 32-year-old from Detroit, received a prison sentence of 46 to 60 years for the 2019 fatal attacks on a Detroit police officer and 2 other men within a 4-day period. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder related to the deaths of Officer Rasheen McClain and Nathaniel Lloyd. Charges regarding the death of Dantes Calhoun were dropped as part of a plea agreement made after consulting with the victims' families. During Parks' sentencing, Wayne County Assistant Prosecutor Matthew Penny shared a letter from McClain's widow, Heidi McClain. She expressed enduring pain and grief, saying her life has been filled with struggle since her husband's death. Parks chose not to speak before being sentenced.
It has been 1,190 days since the worst day of not only my life, but the lives of so many others.
We seek the forgiveness from the families.
The incidents, according to police, were sparked by Parks' obsession with a woman. Officer McClain, 46, was fatally wounded during a response to a home invasion report on November 20th, 2019. The officers were ambushed while searching a house, leading to McClain being wounded in the neck and his partner, Officer Philippe Batum-Bissé, in the ankle.
We are investigating. We're being as deliberate and complete as we can.
Laid there, really waited. It started like praying like you ain't killed. Wanted to jump out of the box and wanted to just get the shooting there.
Parks was injured in an exchange of fire while fleeing the scene and was arrested shortly after. Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy commented on the emotional impact of Officer McClain's death and the wounding of his partner on the community and McClain's family. Hold on to our final clip, which is the most scariest and most creepiest one, and if you like what you saw, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our creepiest videos. On May 5th, 2017, outside a Grand Rapids, Michigan barbershop, Andy Gonzalez got into a heated argument with 23-year-old Dondre Bullis and ended up f***ing him in the head, resulting in Bullis's death. During the same altercation, Gonzalez also f***ed at Bullis's cousin, 26-year-old Manuel Villarreal, who survived the attack and later testified against Gonzalez. After a 4-day trial and over a day of jury deliberation, on April 20th, 2018, Gonzalez was found guilty of second-degree murder, a charge less severe than the first-degree murder the Kent County prosecutors were aiming for. Kent County Circuit Judge George Quist handed down Gonzalez's sentence. Instead of life imprisonment, which is typical for first-degree murder, Gonzalez received a term of 8-11 months, around 67.5 years, to 102 years for second-degree murder. This means Gonzalez could be eligible for parole when he's about 90 years old. In addition to this, Judge Quist ordered a 2-year sentence for a felony weapon conviction to run before the murder and assault sentences, both of which are to be served at the same time. Gonzalez's total prison time, then, ranges from 65.5 to 100 years for the murder, plus 35 to 100 years for the assault, with credit for 375 days already spent in jail. The trial was marked by emotional testimonies from the victim's family. Villarreal recounted the threatening demeanor Gonzalez had during the incident, while Bullis's children's mothers criticized Gonzalez, highlighting Bullis's importance as a provider and father.
But that's okay, because I suffer, your mom's going to suffer too. My grandsons have to live the rest of their life without their dad. They didn't even have a dad growing up. So thank you. Thank you for what you did. Because you ruined my life, you ruined their lives, and you ruined your family lives. Because he didn't need nobody. He could have up and down the street. You and the clowns that you hang out with. Now my baby's dead. So you're happy. Thank you. Because I'm happy too. Because yeah, his body's dead, but his spirit lives on. And I know he's standing right here laughing at you. That's why you killed him, right? Because he laughed at you? Because you're a bitch. You're a You already know how life is in prison. And you think you're going to just be happy-go-lucky? Nah, mother. You're going to suffer for the rest of your life. Bent over with your mouth open, being everybody's for the rest of your life. Why did you kill my baby? You ain't got a reason. You're going to die in prison.
Ma'am.
I know.
I think you need to calm down on this.
I know. Okay. But I have to live the rest of my life without my son. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry to you. because you got what you come. Green light on you. Ain't that what they said? Ain't that what you heard? Good. And I hope you suffer for the rest of your life.
But there's not much to say. You're a
Yeah.
You're a and you know if you would have fought him that day, you would have beat your ass. And you couldn't take that ass whooping, so you decided to kill him. You decided to go get a gun and kill him because you don't have the balls to fight like a man. You had to come back around and kill him because you know he would have whooped your ass. You took my kid's dad from him. Now they have to grow up for the rest of their life without their dad. And he was a good dad. He spent every single second caring for them and loving them. Yeah. And now they have to go on without him, and I have to go on without him and raise my two boys without their daddy. You don't even know what it's like to be a father. You're just stupid. You killed him for no reason. You had no right. And I hope you rot in hell in prison for the rest of your damn life. I hope you get exactly what you deserve in prison, and you know what's gonna happen to you when you go to prison. God forgive me, but I hate you. Yeah. And I hope you rot in hell for the rest of your life.
People like him are a curse to society these days. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated with our latest videos.